You're tuned into the Edible Activist Podcast. I am your host and favorite go-to edible activist, Melissa L. Jones. On this show, we serve up empowering narratives and fresh perspectives straight from the voices of emerging Black people and people of color in agriculture and business. And in these candid conversations, we might sprinkle in a few choice words. They're the ones stewarding the land, healing communities, and championing food justice and economic empowerment across the country. Their contributions and stories sprouted from the earth truly embody the spirit of activism in their own unique, edible ways. So let's dig in and get started. Peace and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I am your host and favorite edible activist, Melissa L. Jones. I am so honored because I have a special returning guest, Dr. Sade Anderson Brown, who is a scholar, organizer, educator, facilitator, strategist, thought leader, and so much more. But I'm going to have her rave about herself in just a moment. She is the founder of Seeds of Blackness, which will be the focal point of our discussion today. But I'm just so excited to have Sade in studio with me because the first time I had you on the show, it was virtual, might have been during COVID, the COVID era. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And she's stunning. Y'all don't see her, but she's stunning. She has this beautiful print on.
As
I'm just loving. Thank you. So first of all, I'm always excited when I get into the studio and can talk to a dope guest. But we're going to learn today about an exciting culinary cultural experience that Dr. Sade is curating. And so, you all know, intersection of food, agriculture, culture, history, art, music, the diaspora, all the things, right? So we're going to learn about that. But for those who don't know about Dr. Sade, and she's so many things, y'all, I'm going to have her, just give you a little bit of background about herself. And then we're going to dive into this experience that I want y'all to be like literally ears open, tapped in, okay? Because you need to know all about this experience. But we're going to start with a little bit about Sade, and then we'll tap into this wonderful curation that she's spearheading.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, this question is complex, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. So in terms of my personal background, I was born in South Dakota. I was raised in the military. I come from a military background. My father was in the Air Force, and my family has lived all over the world. So I was born in South Dakota, raised the first 5 years of my life in Germany. Prior to South Dakota, my family was living in Brazil. My sister was born in Brasilia, Brazil. And I was raised in Germany the first 5 years of my life, and then moved to the U.S. Around 5-6 years old, and have lived pretty much in every quadrant of the United States. So I definitely have the seed of traveling and culture and being raised around so many different people from so many different places. Language, my father speaks fluent Portuguese. Many of my childhood friends were Ethiopian, Vietnamese. One of my good friends was from Venezuela. So many cultures have influenced who I am, and what I like and what I enjoy. And being raised in the military and having all these lived experiences in different places helped me to understand and see the world in a particular way that I absolutely carry with me and am hoping to impart on my child, my son. And I definitely think is the heart of why I wanted to do this work, this African Diaspora tour company or travel company. In addition to, I was raised in an African-centered household. So my mother is very, very African-centered, more culturally than politically, but heavily influenced, again, my worldview, my relationship to Africa, as well as the diaspora. And my desire to connect all things Black people, and just obviously love Black people down all day, every day, and my pro-Blackness and Pan-African politics that would come later in life. So that's kind of a bit about my personal background. Could say more, but I think that helps to kind of ground. And then academically, all three of my degrees are in Black Studies. So my bachelor's is from Bowie State, BSU, HBCU, stand up, in history with a concentration in Pan-African Studies. My master's from Cornell is in Africana Studies. And then my PhD is from the University of Texas at Austin in Anthropology and African Diaspora Studies. Because
I told y'all she was a scholar.
I do identify as a scholar, not an academic, but I do identify as a scholar. And I would say some of my lived experience that kind of intersects this company as well is I've been in the food system, food sovereignty, land space for about 12 years, and have an organizing and activist background, and have been a part of many movement spaces, have been blessed to be a part of many movement spaces. But this work, I really came to food and agriculture through being a single mother, wanting to raise my son on healthy, clean food, right? So I really came to it through food, culinary, cooking, nutrition. I was a part of Healthy and Affordable Food for All, also known as HAFA, with my now husband, Xavier. That's how we met, as many folks may or may not know. But also that's where I met Gail Taylor of 3 Part Harmony Farm. That's where I met Joelle Robinson, Agogo, who was then a part of Green Scheme with Xavier. So many other folks that have been in this space for a long time and that I get to call comrades and family, what we call farmly in BDFC. And I worked early on as a nutrition educator and kind of farm to table cook at Eco City Farm. And I was a youth educator, gardener at City Blossoms early on. And then I jumped into nonprofit work, working for an all-white nonprofit that shall not be named, that I was over their African Diaspora Foods program. I was the national program manager of their African Diaspora Foods program. And that's where the impetus for this, in particular, this travel company came from, because that nonprofit was significantly known for doing culinary tours. They would travel only to Europe, and they were their goal was to expose Americans mostly to local, clean, healthy food, agriculture, and kind of artisan things that are, local to different places like Greece and Italy. And because we know that the American food system and the American diet is trash. So that was their goal. And I remember asking, well, why we ain't going nowhere Black? Straight up, why are we not going nowhere Black? I will not say on air what the ED said. I'll just say that there were some assumptions about Black people that I knew that weren't true. And in that moment, this was probably 2016, 2017, the seed was already planted in me to, I won't go as far to say as prove her wrong, but to demonstrate what I knew was already true, right? And to work with other Black people who wanted to make that a reality. So I already was asking Black folks that were in the food space or nutrition space or ag space to get people in the diaspora. At the time, I was finagling some conversations with Camilla McDonald. I don't know if you know her. She's a Jamaican woman who is very well known in fitness and health. Her ex-husband was Jacure, the singer, the reggae singer. But anyway, I had some conversations with her that were really positive, and I think she was interested, but I wasn't ready, right, to be able to branch away from that nonprofit because I didn't have so many things at the time. But I knew, hey, if she's interested, other people are going to be interested too. What is this going to look like, right? And it took me years to build up the courage and see in myself that I could do it, right? See in myself that it's not that you have to be an expert or know all the things. What I do know with 3 degrees in Black studies, what relationships I already have and continue to build, this could be a beautiful experience for anybody, but definitely for Black folks, right? So that's where a lot of this started. And I'll just caveat that the trip was actually supposed to start in 2020. We were gonna go to Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, and the pandemic came, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, what is this gonna look like? What's the future of travel? I have no idea. So I put a pause on it. But now here we are 4 years later, and we're going to St. Croix, y'all. We're going to St. Croix.
First of all, we can just land right here, Dr. Sade. Okay, let's just land right here, because you ain't about to give me all of that and just think I'm just gonna be like, okay, no. That, first of all, can we just start back at the very beginning of you being born in South Dakota? Because I never knew that.
Not too many Black folks out there.
At all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
But you took us around. You literally took us around like this little map in your world and your lived experiences. And I was smiling so hard on the inside because even though I didn't grow up in South Dakota. I was born in Mississippi, raised in Maryland, but my lived experiences were around different cultures, like Jamaican friends, friends from, El Salvador, like friends from Mexico. Like we had a different cuisine every single day, in an apartment building we grew up. And so that was part of my lived experience, which I actually defer back to at times. I'm like, I had this whole food experience coming up as a child, because I was literally like in this melting pot. So y'all see how this all just like intersects. And I have to put the note out just speaking to, when you were on the show and speaking to like your ag work, and I'm plugging this in, y'all. I know this was a while back, but still, all my shows are amazing. You got to go listen to all of them. But Dr. Sade was on with Asha Carter at the time because you all were working on a set of food recommendations you actually shared on the podcast, which was great. And so I just wanted to put that plug in that Dr. Sade is plugged in everywhere, but also fast forward to the seed was planted, 2017? Is that the year?
2016, 2017,
yeah.
Yep.
And so it takes time, y'all. Sometimes it just takes time for it to manifest.
Absolutely.
When you plant something, it's going to grow. And so here we are. 2024. And this is happening.
It's happening.
This is so happening. So I'm excited. I hope y'all have your seatbelts on because I looked at the site and I read about all the amazing details. And
can I just shout out my web designer and dear friend,
beautiful.
Ayana Jones of Marigold LLC. If you don't know her, find her. She is an amazing creative. She literally took the vision and it's beyond my wildest dreams. Many of the photos on the website, shout out myself, are from me. Okay. I'm not a photographer, but I am a photographer. And much of which she curated for me as well, and she did an amazing. I'm so happy with the website.
The colors are so bold. Like once I got on, I was like, no, this is
it. It's so me. It's so me.
Yeah. Yeah, they are so bold. I literally felt like I was like in the experience once I went to the site. So shout out to you. So you've been to St. Croix 3 times. Three times. And so what I want to ask are, what are some of the unique aspects of St. Croix? And you just don't have to just one, you can answer one of the 3, but like some of the unique aspects about the history, the culture, and or the culinary traditions that attracted you to create this experience? Because obviously you had a time when you went the last 3 times.
Yes, I keep going back for a reason. So
and I've never been to St. Croix, never been to the Virgin Islands. I've never been. So paint this for me.
Yes. Okay, so there's so many things. St. Croix is a beautiful place, obviously, like most of the Caribbean, the beaches, the people. It is the largest of the 3 of St. John, St. Thomas, and St. Croix make up the U.S. Virgin Islands. One unique fact about St. Croix. I would say that the people and the deep Black history of the island, specifically around resistance, was really, really powerful and impactful. And I'm not going to say too much because you got to come on the tour and you got to find out for yourself. But that really, really hit me. And obviously, anywhere where enslaved Africans were taken, brought to have continued to live, of course, we know that Black people everywhere resisted. Don't ever believe that we sat back and accepted, right? What was being imposed upon us. But that really, those are some aspects, as well as the food, the music, like many places as well, though, because of colonialism, because of imperialism, because of capitalism, a lot of the culture, you have to seek it, you have to find it, because a lot of the young people, I think, are not continuing the culture like in many places, right? But it's there, and there are elders who definitely are trying to pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah.
I think also the rich agriculture scene there, it's the largest of the three, but it is a small island. And so the agriculture scene there is vibrant. A lot of Black farmers who are connected to one another. And the food. I mean, there's a lot of overlap with foods as well as culinary traditions and styles across the Caribbean.
Okay, yeah.
But there are some unique things to St. Croix, like the Johnny cake. So because you come from Mississippi, are you familiar with Johnny cake?
We didn't. So I remind people that,
And it's a little different in St. Croix. But
some people think that all the South is the same.
Absolutely not.
And it's absolutely not,
Absolutely
right?
not.
So I'm sure. So my grandmother does like a hot water cornbread. So similar.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
like that's what they knew coming up. They might not have called it that, but something similar.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So my understanding, and thank you, absolutely, nothing is homogenous. That is white supremacy trying to get us to believe that anything is homogenous. Certain parts of the South, that hot water cornbread is almost a cross between cornbread and a pancake. And so it's circular. It looks like a pancake. So in St. Croix, Johnny cake, which now called Johnny cake, really was called journey cake.
Oh.
So enslaved Africans would make these. I think of a Johnny cake similar to bake. I don't know if you've ever had bake from from other places like in Trinidad.
Right.
It's a pocket-ish. It's soft, fluffy dough.
And that's not cornmeal based though.
No.
Okay.
No,
which
this is regular flour.
Totally different from. Okay.
Totally different. This is regular flour. But they would eat that along with saltfish, smoked herring, and they would take it on their journey into their fields, obviously, so that they could stay satiated throughout the day. But eventually,
and that's why it was called a journey.
It was because you're going on a journey. You don't know what's coming or going. And because so many different colonizers, which I will also share, hopefully we'll get there. St. Croix has been colonized by 7 different colonizers. So between the different accents and languages, eventually journey became Johnny for Johnny cake. So that's just one of the foods, but there's so many amazing, obviously, tropical fruits that grow there.
Yes.
What they call carambola, which is star fruit, grows there. Guava, soursop, breadfruit, tamarind, coconut. They have a multitude of variety of mangoes, callaloo. They eat there. What I have not tasted yet, but is the unofficial national dish of St. Croix is fish and fungi, which I was thinking, fungi like fungi.
Yeah.
But come to find out, no, it's actually like a cornmeal mash mixed with okra. And they actually have something similar in Dutch Caribbean, like in Curacao and other
Okay.
places. But they put stewed fish that has like gravy over top of the cornmeal.
That sounds
I haven't tasted it yet,
divine.
but I'm looking forward to trying it, as well as conch and butter sauce. That's also another one that's very traditional to St. Croix.
I've had conch in
Sure.
Jamaica. So when you were talking about the crossover.
Oh, yeah.
That conch, I ain't never had conch a day in my life until I went to Jamaica.
Okay.
Right there.
Delicious, fresh.
So good.
Very good. Very good.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
The fresh foot, I mean,
Can't beat it.
You can't.
Can't beat it at all. Okay. If y'all aren't sold, and we haven't even like been selling anything, but that your experience, your personal experience, obviously you want this trip to be part reflection of that, of what you experienced, but for individuals to, come in and have their own experience, their own reflections,
Absolutely.
their own perspectives, so, which again, I'm just so super excited about. I know you had mentioned, the rich ag history, which of course, right? And I saw a couple of the farmers. I think like there's a beekeeper and a vegetable farmer. And then I see like a cow and goat farmer. Y'all don't even eat meat, but when I tell you, can I just
I don't
for
eat
one
meat
day,
either.
just one day, like
Yes.
I'm sure fresh goat.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just want to back up to say that this trip, I am not an expert. I am not from St. Croix. I've been 3 times, and it felt like home the first time I touched down. And I shared with my husband, because we've also been to Tobago and Trinidad. It gives very similar to Tobago in the sense that it's the seat of the culture for the islands. The historical culture, the music, the dance, which we haven't even named, but there's so many. It's a cultural seat for the U.S. Virgin Islands. The laid backness, there's so many things.
Yeah.
And this trip is about letting Black Crucians speak for themselves, share their love for their island, share their skills and their passions with Black folks from the diaspora. So I'm just the vehicle, the liaison, I'm.
And thank you, because we need you. We need people like you. And thank you for coming back and saying, I want to share my experience.
Yes, with
but
others.
also from the perspective of, no, I want you all to come hear their narratives.
Yes.
Right? So don't y'all just go off, just be writing any old everything and Googling stuff.
Absolutely
you ain't
not.
been there. You ain't stepped a foot.
Absolutely
ain't
not.
been on a flight. Nothing.
Right.
Okay?
Right. And because it's now colonized by the U.S., it's mostly white Americans, white people from the Danish, because they were the last, I believe, before the U.S. to leave the island.
Okay.
And white people from all over who are buying up the island, staking claim as usual, as well as building resorts where people come. You can stay on a resort and never know anything about a place.
What?
So this company and the vision for not just this trip, but my company in general, is redefining what Black travel experiences can look like. There's a lot of Black travel companies that do luxury, that do, and to me, that's cool. There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
And often it's not intentional, it's not sustainable, it's not
It doesn't
thinking
help the
about
local
the impact.
economy.
Yeah, it's not helping
None
the
of
local
that.
economy.
Yeah.
It's not thinking about the impact. I want to disrupt all of that.
Yes.
And put Black dollars from the diaspora in Black Crucian pockets. That's the goal, right? And to create these bridges and exchanges, because there ain't nothing new for Black people across the water to have relationship and be in connection with one another. So what can that look like for the people who come? The sky's the limit.
Yes.
So I just want to name, I'm not an expert. I'm a lover of culture. I'm a lover of all things Black people. And I hope to just be a little slither of sand that helps, that supports, that highlights what is Black and beautiful about St. Croix.
Yes. I love that. So, and let me just say this. When I travel, I like to go off the beaten path.
Yes.
And if
Me
I
too.
can't go off the beaten path, don't invite me. Do not invite me. Do
Right.
not. Do not. So
Right.
we'll get to when, as we wrap up in a
Sure.
few, like who this
Yes.
is for.
Absolutely.
And who this might not be, like, just in full transparency,
Full
right?
transparency.
So,
100%.
like, yeah. But let's go
100%.
back to some of the farmers who you'll be visiting.
Absolutely. So big up Honeyman.
Honeyman
Honeyman is
yes!
known on the island for his honey. He's a beekeeper. He has several beehives all over the island that he harvests honey from. My husband tried to bring home the honey and then we couldn't get it through the airport. But
I'm gonna tell y'all what to do next time.
yeah. And everyone who comes on the trip will get a travel-sized honey. He also grows, he has multiple acres of land on his property that has all types of fruits and vegetables, including avocado, pineapple. Have you ever seen pineapple grow out the ground?
No.
Come through and you will get to see it in real time. So Honeyman is super dope. I appreciate him from day one. He was like, let's talk. You're interested in bringing, let's talk. Like, super open. Pedro is a heritage cow farmer, third generation. His grandfather and his father owned the same land that he is raising these cows. I believe it's pronounced Sinopol. It's a native cow to St. Croix.
Okay.
They're absolutely beautiful. They're like a ginger, reddish brown. We have some pictures on the website, but come see the cows in person. He also does goats, and he sells his animals live to folks who then, of course, break it down and process it and enjoy it. So those are the two main farms we're going to go to. The third farm we'll be going to is Seja Farms. Shout out Seja Farms. They are a family-owned farm that hosts a large community event every year called Bush Cook. And it is all about highlighting and showcasing Black local chefs across the Virgin Islands, not just St. Croix. And Black local farmers. So they use the Black chefs use the Black farm produce to basically like similar to our what would you call those, like food festivals that we have here in the U.S. where you can go around and do tastings.
Okay.
So you will have free samples throughout the day. It is a paid event. It's a 3-day event. And live music, games and activities for kids. It's a family event. And the last day of the 3 days, they do a farm-to-table dinner.
Ooh.
So that is something this group, if you come on the tour, you will experience the community day while we are there. But in the future, look forward to folks going to their 3-day event.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I want to just dive into St. Croix right now. This is happening in October. That's the important thing. You tell people October.
Yes.
Okay, the dates are
October 16th through the 20th, 2024.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, going back to my comment of, again, this is for me personally, I like going off the beaten path.
Yes.
I want the real experience.
Yes.
I want to place my dollars in the hands of those of the local economy. Like that's my jam, right?
For sure.
So typically, who would this be for? Like.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't want to ask it in a way of like, but it's. I just want to be, transparent. Like, don't
100%.
If you think you're going to be posted up in the Ritz-Carlton, and not experience culture, then like this is not for you.
This isn't for you. So first and foremost, I want to say this is for Black travelers. Eventually, I know there will be multiracial trips, but this first inaugural trip is all Black. So if you are a person who identifies as Black, great. It is for people who are 25 and up.
Okay.
for all the reasons that come with that. And it's for mostly able-bodied people. Because St. Croix is an older island, there isn't a lot of infrastructure. There is an elevator at the hotel, but most restaurants and activities, you're going to be climbing stairs. You're going to be walking on cobblestone, right?
Yeah.
It's also for people who are interested in various aspects of culture. So culture is broad. Culture is language. Culture is food and foodways. Culture is art. Culture is music and dance. Culture is history. Culture is traditions. If you're somebody who, you just want to sit on a beach and sip a cocktail and then stay in the room and watch Netflix, this isn't for you, right? We will be going to the beautiful beaches, absolutely. And we will be doing a plethora of cultural activities to engage all these different, highlight these aspects of culture that I really enjoy, like the Black History Walking Tour, which is phenomenal. The two major port cities of St. Croix, Frederiksted and Christiansted, each of them have their own unique Black history. And shout out Miss Celeste from Chant, the Crucian Heritage and Nature Tourism nonprofit. She's going to be working with us and giving us our tour. But yeah, so if you're interested in various aspects of culture, all things Black in particular, if you're a person who likes to travel with groups, it is going to be intimate. The group is only 8 slots. We're down to 3. So if you are interested, we look forward to having you. If you are somebody who is open and curious and goes with the flow, because I can't control nature. I can't control everything, right? Somebody who's flexible, it's for you. It is for you. And if you're just somebody who's like, hey, I've never been there before, I'm interested. It's also for you.
Thank you for
It's
naming
something
that.
for everybody.
Yes. But that's also important.
Absolutely.
That's very important. So, swipe accordingly before you commit.
Absolutely, because there are no refunds.
There are no refunds, okay?
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, I want to wrap up by asking how folks can contact you
Absolutely.
about the trip. But before we do that, is there just any listen, you did layers of icing on top of this cake, right? Or maybe, let's say fruit, avocado, guava. Okay, we're going to add some seafood. You had added layers. Is there anything else unique or just something else that you want to add about this trip before we close out?
So I won't share too much because, again, I want folks to experience it. But there's a lot of beautiful connections between Black people, as I mentioned earlier, across the diaspora and St. Croix in particular, and Black folks who lived largely in the U.S. So a lot of people might know Arturo Schomburg from the Schomburg Center in New York.
Okay.
His mother was Crucian. She was a free Black woman and a midwife from St. Croix. So there's a lot of connections there that we'll delve a bit into on the trip. The airport is named after Henry Rolson, who was a Tuskegee airman.
Oh my.
When we get off the plane, I'm like, what?
Baby, I be just swaying and just, yes.
There's so many. I mean, that's not even the tip of the iceberg.
That's not even a tip. Oh my gosh.
There's so many beautiful connections and so much, obviously, things that are unique to St. Croix. Something I'll share that is really powerful that has stayed with me from the first time I learned about it is that all 3 islands were freed by 3 Black women. They basically burned all the plantations to the ground.
This is what we do.
To get freedom for Black folks. So come learn about Mary, Matilda, and Agnes when you come on this tour.
I'm going to this trip, okay? I'm going. I'm affirming it.
Yes.
Listen, where the sponsors at?
We would love to have you. Absolutely.
That is incredible. And that's not, like you said, that you just gave us a 1-2.
Yeah.
Imagine just immersing yourself there and then making those connections real time and just.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, so someone says, I'm in. listen, I checked the box on all the things. Like, what do they do next? How do they?
Absolutely. So you can apply to go on the trip at www.seeds, of blackness.com/group travel. So www.seedsofblackness.com/group travel. All the information should be there for you. Obviously, if you have any questions, you can send a message via contact, and you fill out the application. Assuming all goes well, you pay your deposit, you're in.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to have that link in the description of the podcast description as well. So, Dr. Sade, this was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you
so
for
much
having
for
me.
sharing. I love when people have an experience and they want to share. You know, sometimes folks keep things and it's just like, but just sharing that this exists and I want you to come over and experience what I did plus more.
Yes.
So I appreciate you spending some time with us and being back on the show. And shout out to X, like X is her husband, who's been on the show several times.
Yes.
Dope as hell. Okay, so I have to say X's name while I'm on the show.
Bye, honey. Yes.
All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Until next time, peace. Thanks for tuning in. You can catch today's episode on iTunes, Spotify, and Simplecast. And be sure to follow us at Food Talks in Color. That's just the letter N on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.